I'd like to make a statement at this point, since it is my motion. Okay. The order of mayoral succession is not set by right of the candidate. It is determined by the council. When I became vice mayor, my understanding is that Councilmember Sinks attempted to lobby others as well so that he would secure the position rather than me. That was his right. Why allow that right to be exercised unquestioned, but then question a similar right being exercised only in another political direction? For those who say we must reach across the aisle and that we must heal, I tell you that I wholeheartedly agree. Listening to all sides and reaching across the aisle is truly difficult to do, and I have done it. You know that I take any meeting requested, and I reach out to all sides of an issue. And in this present context, I have also reached out. 1 year ago, when I became mayor, I expressed as part of my first public remarks a willingness to work with our vice mayor, who gave no response. That was his right, but then others have rights too. Much of governance is about spending the time building relationships with all sides, but it is also political. We just went through an election where there were 3 seats available, and Councilmember Sinks supported 3 other candidates. That was his right. Now that I've been reelected with the most votes in the history of Cupertino municipal elections, I have the right to support the people I feel would do a good job as well. And that is why I am nominating Councilmember Scharf for mayor. I have had the opportunity to observe him as a sitting council member these past years. My belief is that he will reach across the table and that he'll have an honest, civil, and intelligent conversation with anyone who sets one forth. But I will accept and support the decision of our new council, no matter how it goes, in the spirit of doing what's best for our community. Policy considerations matter, but there are some easy actions one can take to, at the very least, indicate that you appreciate people going out of their way to support your causes. I took a number of meetings this year to look into what we could be doing to support the performing arts in Cupertino. I knew this to be an important area for Councilmember Sinks. After much work, I was able to place on our agenda, and in our proposed budget, money allocated for supporting theater performances put on by our local Shakespeare organization, which would help the community put on its own performance. This was any performance, and not necessarily one of the Bard's scripts. This was rejected out of hand by Councilmember Sinks on the basis of expense. In retrospect, I find it questionable that the money proposed to be allocated here, in the tens of thousands, could be called into question while just a brief time later, support for a new performing arts center, which could very well lose hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars a year, subsidized by us, ignored similar but much greater direct monetary considerations. I will continue to reach across the aisle. But in the past year, I have had concerns, not just on policy, but the manners in which proposals have been introduced and supported. This past summer, our prior majority from the dais voted to consider eliminating the Library Commission and the Public Safety Commission. That is how we tread into the waters of purportedly trying to improve how we as a council interact with our commissions. This was not the kind of action that I see as supportable with my vote to lead the council. Nor do I think that supporting an employee head tax in the media and getting an ill-formed proposal on the agenda and subsequently recusing oneself from the related vote is the kind of methodology that I want to empower with the unilateral ability to place items on our agenda outright. Our agenda items need to be balanced and fairly considered, especially by those advocating for them. We need a mass transit fix, and if we are to achieve it, we need to be prepared. If we dedicate to doing the work well, we will inevitably work together. If this past cycle has taught us anything, it is that fairness means first and foremost reaching out and listening. I have other policy considerations and projects of my own that I support. I do my best not to place them front and center because I don't believe that service is primarily about supporting one's supported perspectives, about furthering them, rather. Still, along with Councilmember Liang Chow, being the only candidates in our city's history to receive over 8,000 votes, And standing alone as the only candidate to have ever received over 9,000 votes in one election, I feel that there must be at least some significant number of people who agree with my priorities, in addition to my approach of not just responding to, but reaching out to everyone. And I will say that I have in our meetings this past year literally begged our outgoing majority to support a park proposal off of Lawrence Expressway, but to no avail. No matter. I have done what was needed to advocate for fairness and for our community, and our community has spoken. And we have, in fact, allocated all the funds sufficient for this project approximately 4 years ago now. But there has been no movement forward insofar as recent majority council support goes. The project itself might now be beyond the point of salvaging. Without a mayor who supports this type of policy priority, I have concerns about whether this and similarly situated fairness-oriented items will get their due attention on our future agendas. Similarly, and I will close with this point, our library expansion is necessary in order for us to serve the needs and preferences of our community. Originally, one property owner, already entitled, had allocated $7 million for this project once the property owner pulled building permits for its apartment project for an additional 600 units of housing. We are here more than 3 years later, still waiting. But during this process, those promised funds were co-opted by members of our prior majority in order to support a much more expansive and expensive civic center plan under certain auspices, while ignoring viable and much less expensive alternatives for example, an emergency operations center at our corporation yard. I ask first that our current majority work to encourage developers who have been sitting on housing entitlements to pull these building permits and help us meet our housing stock related obligations. We have done our part by allocating the entitlements. Some in the state and others unjustifiably blame us for not building the housing stock that we have in good faith entitled. But the very simple fix is to set a shorter period of time for those entitlements. There is no longer any ambiguity as to where our current majority sits, and there will be no deals in exchange for greater entitlements that make our congestion and housing problems worse. The message is clear, and it is unequivocal. Cupertino's integrity is not for sale. We will do our part to fix, no, please, order. We will do our part to fix the housing problem in an honest manner that doesn't worsen the crisis. For the library, I would like to see, no later than within this half year, an item on our agenda to approve an expansion plan. We can pay for this plan even if promised funds from the development community are not forthcoming. I look forward to working with this very worthy, and frankly, given the amount of funding and resources operating against it from money-driven special interests, very worthy majority. This is an excellent council, I know, and it will do the work, and we will fix the problems. Thank you. For the reasons set forth, I support Councilmember Scharf to be our next mayor. All right.